On this episode of Backroads, there's a long history to brewing beer in Montana.
But the real value of learning about the history lies in the actual history of each individual brewery.
You're listening to KGVA.
Montana has one of the few tribally owned and operated radio stations in the country.
I think the community is really proud of the radio station.
The Headwaters trail system around the Three Forks area brings local residents in touch with the landscape and their past.
It just takes me back to when I was a kid growing up in this area.
On this edition of Backroads, we'll keep our sunny side up.
Backroads of Montana is made possible with production support from the Greater Montana Foundation, encouraging communication on issues, trends, and values of importance to Montanans. The Montana Office of Tourism at visitmt.com, and the University of Montana.
Well, it's beautiful with spacious skies, has amber waves of green, and has purple mountains majestic that rise up out of the plains. And all across America, from sea to shining sea, where the mountains and the prairies meet, is a place I need to be. Home is where Montana is my home. From mountain peaks to prairie lands, the places I have known. And I'm bound to ramble, yes, I'm bound to roam. And when I'm in off the road now, boys, Montana is my home.
Welcome to the Backroads of Montana. Our program crisscrosses the state in search of people and locations that make Montana such a special place to live. Hello. Today we're helping out at the Prairie Winds Cafe in Molt. It's just northwest of Billings. It's a place we've heard about for years. Got your menus here. Every Saturday morning, the cafe adds something extra to the pancakes and eggs. It's not exactly powder milk biscuits, but it's close, as you'll see in a moment.
Thank you.
Molt, Montana was established back in 1917 when the Northern Pacific Railroad came to the Lake Basin area. Molt had 4 stores, 4 grain elevators, and a bank. There's still a wheat shipping business in operation, and the Prairie Winds Cafe has thrived, though not every day is like Saturday. Why the crowd? Every Saturday morning, hearty breakfasts are served with a side of bluegrass, provided by musicians from all over the area. They don't get paid, but they do get a good breakfast and lunch. We'll make sure that you get samples of the musical brew throughout today's program. Our first story features another brew that has always been big business in Montana, beer. A Polson man has combined his love of beer, family, and history to remember Montana's brewing past. Steve Lozar likes to end his day with his favorite beer, a Slurry Bomber Stout, at the local brewery in Polson.
It's a satisfying, good taste. It's a good close to a 24-hour period.
Lozar is a busy man. He's a tribal council member, a business owner, a professor of anthropology at Salish Kootenai College, and a trustee for the Montana Historical Society. Lozar has combined his love of history and his family's business into an interesting collection. In the late 1800s, his great-grandfather, Joe Lozar, came to Montana from Slovenia.
And very soon found that he would have, his skills were better suited for being a saloon man. So he started working in saloons in East Helena. From there, owned three different saloons, the flagship being the Joe Lozar's East Helena Saloon.
When the original building was being demolished 8 years ago, Lozar recreated the saloon as part of his collection of Montana beer memorabilia, including the original stonework, the doorway, and the spittoon at the end of the bar. It takes up the entire second floor of his silkscreening business in Polson.
I like to refer to it as Joe Lozar's Montana Brewery Museum, named after my great-grandfather, the immigrant who who had this back bar and front bar, and whose kind of spirit this place embodies. So,
Lozar started his collection as a teenager and was instantly hooked.
Having come from this brewery background, I just started picking up a few cans here and there. I got to wondering one day, wonder how many other ones there are.
His passion for collecting grew. He kept looking for new pieces, started trading with other collectors, and took in a few donations.
And more, I became more and more interested. I have a degree in anthropology, so history obviously is part and parcel of who I am. And I just started narrowing down and learning more and being more excited about the history of Montana brewing. And that's what you see here.
Today, the collection includes thousands of pieces of Breweriana.
You can see a great part of it hanging around this museum, but the real value of learning about the history lies in the actual history of each individual brewery. So I have thousands of old Montana brewery advertisements, letters from brewers back and forth to each other from the 1800s, and it mirrors the history of the state. It was best if they identified themselves.
Lozar says an example of that history is shown through one beer's name change.
The Great Falls Bohemian Style Lager is completely dropped because of the Nazi movement in Western Europe. And so you can see that it was changed to just Great Falls, It's the Flavor beer. You can see the international scene was beginning to change. Even we looked at our home industry. There were hundreds of match books that were put out by the breweries.
Lozar says his favorite pieces include matches in the shape of Butte beer bottles.
And this is from 1939.
A Kessler can that was converted into a cigarette lighter.
They're called Pelican lighters.
And another item in the shape of a Great Falls My Favorite bottle.
And you open it up, and it says, "Blow loud and clear, my favorite beer is here." And it's from 1910, February of 1910. It's dated inside. And when you wanted another My Favorite, you just whistled for another one, and the bartender brought it over to you.
With all the unique finds, Lozar says it's hard to determine the total value of his collection. He's just trying to keep the history in the state.
Every time something is shipped, an artifact that's part of our history is shipped out of state, the whole state loses. We lose a little bit of our history. So certainly thousands of dollars in monetary value, priceless as far as the history of the state.
So Steve Lozar can sip on his pint of Slurry Bomber, knowing that he's keeping the legacy of his family business preserved. Steve Lozar is currently writing a book on the history of Montana breweries. He says that his collection will eventually be given to the Montana Historical Society. You can visit the Brewery Memorabilia Museum anytime the family business, Total Screen Design in Polson, is open. Just stop by the store and ask to see it. Let's see who needs coffee. The Saturday morning bluegrass breakfast at the Prairie Winds Cafe in Molt was the idea of Larry Larson, leader of the Highway 302 band. Our next story takes us back to the highway and north to the present-day home of the White Clay and Nakota Indian nations, or as they're otherwise known, the Gros Ventre and the Assiniboine. It was on the Fort Belknap Reservation where we met several dedicated people who are using radio to keep their community connected. Another cold, wintry night is blanketing the reservation, and that can only mean one thing.
And here we are, we're ready to go with the basketball game between the Rocky Boy Northern Stars and the Harlem Wildcats.
It's a full house at the Harlem High School gym. But not everyone could make it.
The number one ranked Rocky Boy Northern Stars are out at center court and they're ready to go.
Ronnie Cole's eyesight prevents him from seeing the game. A loyal fan of the local teams, the radio keeps him connected.
And the ball is tipped up and controlled by Rocky Boy.
Yeah, I really like basketball.
Flying 12-footer, no good. And the Boys rebound. Quick outlet pass to Jared Parker. Jared Parker drives in, lays it up off the glass and good.
Marlon Latreille is providing the play-by-play, and Dale Snow is helping. They're broadcasting on KGVA, Montana's only tribally owned and operated radio station.
He goes ahead, he lays it up and good.
The station provides a variety of services for listeners.
The music they play, I think it's better. But basketball is the thing, you know, because I get more enjoyment there, you know.
Harlem was no match for their reservation neighbors from Rocky Boy. The home team struggled, not unlike the radio station covering them.
KGVA, the voice of the Nakota and White Clay Nation.
You're working on the one for Indian country?
It was a humble beginning when a woman from Fort Belknap College approached Clarina Brockie about starting a station.
And I told her, I don't know anything about radio station. We know that, but you'll learn. You're the kind that'll pick up and learn. And I told her, no, I didn't want to do it.
Eventually, Clarina said yes, and led a staff and outside helpers over technical, engineering, and construction hurdles. By October 1996, KGVA was on the air, a public radio station representing the two nations of the Fort Belknap Reservation. The signal starts on the reservation and stretches 9,000 square miles to surrounding communities.
You're listening to KGVA 88.1 FM, Fort Belknap.
But after a few years, the struggles began. They were drowning in paperwork, failing to file reports on time, and losing funding.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Giles Snyder.
They basically ran national programs from the satellite, and few people listened. At the station's low point, volunteer Will Gray applied for the station manager's job.
I focused on localizing this radio station, making this Fort Belknap's radio station again, being unique, and how can we make this a native station and have other people learn from us and share what we're doing.
Happy birthday going out to Ina Nespers of the Aoni Nation. That's right, the White Clay Nation. Happy birthday from Raymond Sr., James T.
The ideas were simple and smart, from reading local birthdays to DJ Brian Hammett's next suggestion.
Hey, you know, we got our language. Why don't we put it on the air?
Daya, to feel good inside. Daya wa'un, I'm doing well.
And I thought that's the effect of radio. You know, you could hear Native American stories.
Yabishka, try to talk Nakota.
Because let me tell you, out in the community, everyone knows our intro. Why? Because they hear it every day. Every single day, they know both the White Clay and the Nakota intro.
Our time is now 8 minutes after the 3 o'clock hour.
Robbie Bell, Virgil Kinsey, along with Brian, all started as volunteers before getting hired. The small staff took the station out into the community. Now they help broadcast cultural events, political interviews, and perhaps most important, tribal council meetings. 40 miles south on the reservation, Minerva Allen turns on the radio for the lunchtime crowd at the Lodgepole Senior Center. They are tribal members who live the farthest from the radio station.
Some of the elders never go to a town that much, maybe once a month. So learning about everything that's going on.
And your chance of snow for Friday night is 80%.
It provides us with the news that's going on, the people that are having birthdays, and just personal things that you would never get on another radio station.
We'll get back to some more powwow music.
But for all the community connections, they still face the same challenges as all radio stations, keeping listeners happy. How do you balance traditional powwow music in the morning with some serious hip-hop at night?
Although I don't mind rap, because my kids is always play it on the radio and it says, go left, go left. And I was thinking, my God, what we're going to... I said, is that all they do is say go left? And they said, Grandma, you're hearing it wrong.
No, they're the ones that are going to call in and say, change it to something else. They get to listen to everything on KGVA. It's got a lot of variety.
Second shot on the way, it's also good.
Back at the game, Marlon and Dale are finishing their work, reaching listeners on and off the reservation. It's a connection this community never had before, and one they hope will continue.
I think that was one of the best things that happened here in Fort Belknap, is having the radio station, and then having good people to run it.
We'll be back in 1 minute.
There are only 33 tribal stations in the country, although Montana may be adding another, as the Rocky Boy Reservation hopes to put a station on the air in the near future. Let's see where these go. The Prairie Winds Cafe in Molt has been serving breakfast and lunch since 2001. Their homemade pies, heaping breakfast, and fresh coffee make this old hardware store a cozy, friendly place to gather. Our next stop takes us back to a less hospitable time, the homesteading era. This story started out as a search for Montana's smallest state park. We found it and its humble history near Three Forks. Nelson Parker built this cabin in the Jefferson River Valley in 1910 for his wife Rosa and their young family. Homesteading fulfilled Parker's dream of owning a piece of land in Montana, but the family lived with few material comforts. The cabin was sturdy and dry, but the Parkers had to haul water for years until they could afford to dig a well. The family eventually moved to a more comfortable home in Three Forks. Today, you can see remnants of the once whitewashed plaster walls, and the dirt floor, once covered with wide planks and bright linoleum, now records daily visitor traffic. The windows allow free access to the wind, rain, and in summer, a constant cloud of mosquitoes. The buzz of family voices is gone, replaced by the rustle of wind in the cottonwood trees and tall grasses. Decades of harsh Montana winters have left their trace, but the Parker Homestead cabin has been stabilized and preserved to stand a good while longer as a reminder of Montana's homesteader past. The 1 Acre State Park is located just a few miles west of Three Forks. It's open year-round, but if you're planning to visit in summer, bring your bug repellent. Well, you deliver the plates, you got to pick them up. Thank you. The Bluegrass Breakfast at the Prairie Winds Cafe in Molt attracts hungry music lovers from all over south central Montana. And owner Fran Urfer says the guest book has names from all 50 states and 30 foreign countries. Our final story takes us back to the Three Forks area. There we met a resident who gathers inspiration and more from a scenic trail system. Jim Phillips will tell you collecting is in his blood.
In about 1958, I was 10 years old, and that's when I started collecting things. I started with the antlers and rocks.
He also collected stories. There are volumes to prove it. Right now, Jim is sharing those stories with readers of the local newspaper. In 2005, Jim decided that he and his bulldog, Blossom, needed to shed a few pounds. For exercise, they walked along the Headwaters trail system, a network of paths that ribbon around Three Forks and into magnificent country.
I've learned to appreciate my surroundings, whether I'm scanning the mountain vistas that surround me or being startled by the rustling and the cattails along the trail. There is mystery here, often a hint of suspense and a sense of adventure for an old man and his dog, or maybe for anyone who takes the time to look for it.
What Jim experienced on his daily walks inspired him to begin writing a weekly column for the Three Forks Herald. His columns ranged from a humorous look at joggers.
They jog here and they jog there and they grin and they smile all the time they are doing it. About the only time I jog is if there's a fire involved and it looks like I could be blamed.
To the dramatic, like the day Blossom fell into an irrigation ditch.
With a couple more steps, I could see the bulldog under the water, flat on her side. She was completely submerged with her eyes wide open. Touching her, I couldn't detect a response. The only thing I could think to do was push on her sides. I didn't know if I was pushing the water out or the life back in. I just kept it up while saying a prayer from time to time. In between pushing and praying, I was trying to figure out what I was going to tell my wife.
Blossom made a full recovery, hiking with Jim for another 2.5 years. The trail cuts through what was once disposable country, a forgotten jumble of weeds and gravel pits, prime habitat for an adventurous Three Forks boy who made the area his playground. That's why today, something as simple as slipping on snow can rekindle childhood memories of family.
As I stood there in the light of day, I noticed that my impression left in the snow looked a little like a snow angel. While I was waiting for the numbness in my elbow to turn into pain, thoughts of an old photo taken by my mother over 50 years ago came to mind. As I was flapping my arms and legs to make a snow angel, she stood over me so her shadow was in the picture. Her elbows were out to her sides so she could get her eye in the viewfinder and take the perfect picture. I often think of that picture when I'm thinking about angels.
Last winter, Jim spotted a family fishing on dangerously thin ice. His decision to intervene with a strongly worded warning prompted a story of a fishing trip 50 years ago on the shores of Hebgen Lake.
My father and I decided to go fishing and push the boat out into the lake's dead calm. We weren't too far from shore when he noticed bubbles as big as dinner plates rising to the surface. My father got spooked, headed for shore, and informed my mother that we were headed home now. On the way out, we passed one of the lower campgrounds. I noticed children running around and a little girl about my age stopping to wave at us. I thought how lucky she was to stay and play. My father remarked to my mother that maybe he should stop and say something about the foreboding he was experiencing. She scoffed and said they would think he was crazy. 12 hours later, we were told about the earthquake and where the slide that dammed the Madison had taken place. His failure to warn the families that were buried alive haunted my father the rest of his life. I have, from my father's side of the family, kind of a slight sense of depression. And when you can go out and walk, you can walk that off, you can think things out. But if you walk far enough, you can usually find a solution to a lot of problems. And that's kind of what I do out on the trail.
Walking also gives Jim a chance to concentrate on his 2 other collections. The rocks, of which there are literally tons. And then there's the antlers.
I started collecting antlers over 50 years ago, and it had nothing to do with collecting a certain amount or anything. I just loved to get out in the mountains and pick up antlers. And at the time, I was about the only one out in the woods doing it. I get the same thrill today as I did when I was a 10-year-old when I find an antler.
Collected here are well over 15,000 deer, elk, and moose sheds. Incredibly, there used to be more, but Jim sold a couple of thousand to help put his 3 daughters through college. So far, Jim has logged around 6,000 miles on the Headwaters Trail. Despite the exercise, he's still carrying those original unwanted pounds. And with them, the addition of some new stories, some old memories, and an appreciation for the sum of it all.
While walking the trail on Sunday mornings, I've been asked if I was going to be late for church, and my response as I raised my hands to the heavens was, I'm in church. I didn't need a multitude of preached ideologies, a choir of blended voices, or a building cluttered with wooden crosses. My trail walking surroundings didn't preach in volumes of text, but in volumes of beauty. The choir that sang was a blend of interstate hums accompanied by the harmonies of nature. Crosses were imagined in the living and dying of cottonwood and willow.
9-mile-long Headwaters trail system is largely the vision and the responsibility of Three Forks Mayor Gene Townsend, who's been nationally recognized for his work. Gene says the trail will never be completely done. There's always someplace new to go. Folks in the Three Forks area seem pleased with where it's taken them so far. And we hope you've had a good time watching today. Many of our stories come from viewers just like you. That's how we found the Prairie Winds Cafe. We welcome your letters and story ideas. Send them to the Backroads of Montana, the University of Montana, Missoula, Montana, 59812. We'd like to thank the owners of the Prairie Winds Cafe, Fran and Jerry Urfer, for letting us help out today. They're busy here Tuesday through Saturday. The doors are open from 7 to 3. And remember, you can watch Backroads of Montana anytime, either online at montanapbs.org or pick up a copy of our program at your local city-county library. As long as you keep watching, we'll keep covering the Backroads of Montana. I'm William Marcus. See you next time.
Backroads of Montana is made possible with production support from the Greater Montana Foundation, encouraging communication on issues, trends, and values of importance to Montanans. The Montana Office of Tourism at visitmt.com, and the University of Montana.
Places I have known, and I'm bound to ramble. Yes, I'm bound to roam. And when I'm in off the road now, boys, Montana is my home. Coming in off the road now, boys, you know I'm heading home.